Hello, hello, and welcome to another show that we're bringing you today from our deconditioning series. If you're joining us live, hello and welcome. We are so excited to have you here. Please do interact with us in the chat. That's why we love doing these live. If you have any questions, any insights, please do send them your thoughts in our comment section and we are going to respond to you. And if you've been paying attention to our channel or our Instagram page, you will know today we are going to be introducing hypnotherapy as a way to help you in your deconditioning process. And it's super exciting since I've been playing around with hypnosis for forever now, but it's much better when you're working with a professional. So we have a professional who knows not only what she's doing, she's excellent at what she does, and she uses human design and intertwines it into this absolutely powerful, magical tool to help you unblock all the things that have been keeping you stuck in your conditioning. So, without further ado, let's bring out the wonderful, the magical Sophie. Hello.
Hello, coming to you all the way from Thailand. It's nice to be here. I'm really excited to have this chat with you.
Right. We have not given anyone any context. So Sophie, I've known about Sophie for I don't know how long, but pretty early in my
Yeah.
HD experiment. Is it a year? And she yeah, just has this magical course on HD and parenting. So that's how I found Sophie. But of course, she does hypnotherapy and all the other things, which Sophie, you can tell us about. So, tell us all about what you do and where we can find you before I start prodding you for some answers.
Sure, I'd love to. So, I'm originally from the UK, in case you can't tell by my accent. Some people think I'm Australian. I live in Thailand and have done for the last, I don't know, I have done for the last 8 years. I have a 3-year-old son. So, Moana and I have kids of similar ages. And I've been using human design. I've been a hypnotherapist since, I think, 2015. And I was using human design like personally in my own experiment. And then I started to incorporate it, using it kind of like as a map in my business in 2019, and was doing that professionally here online. And then after I had my son, about a year after I had my son, I was kind of like, oh, I've been working with all these people for years and helping them to decondition, whether it's just through hypnotherapy or hypnotherapy and human design. And most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, the repeating patterns or limiting beliefs that people have are rooted in their childhood, are rooted in the first 7 years of life, right? Because that's kind of just, it's so important. It's like when kids are sponges. And I was like, well, I could just help parents not condition their kids in the first place. So I kind of pivoted into parenting. I've been doing that for the last couple of years. Now I'm also kind of going back a bit more into deconditioning and helping the parents to, decondition basically, because you have to walk the talk as a parent, when you're doing human design. And you can't just raise your kids by design if you're not living your own. So really using these tools like hypnotherapy and EFT and NLP to help the parents understand, what's triggering them, where it comes from in their own childhood, the root causes, so they can not only raise their kids by design, but they can stop projecting their own conditioning onto their kids.
That's absolutely magical. I mean, you need to be doing that even if you don't have children, just for
Yeah. Well, yeah.
just for yourself. So I was going to say, you kind of explained your journey a little bit. You gave us like a high level overview, but I would like to dig a little bit deeper. So for you, I want to know what is the journey that led you to hypnotherapy and why did you choose hypnotherapy over, I don't know, breath work? Like, what was it that I was like, wait, there's something, and then like a aha moment for you when you started working with hypnotherapy?
So for me, I was interested in past lives for a long time, probably since I was like 15. And then when I was 29, like a lot of things happened around my Saturn return. That's when I found human design. When I was 29, I was living in Australia and I started reading books by Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss. Incredible books, incredible past life regressionist. He used to be a psychiatrist, and then he kind of went into the more spiritual aspect. And his books were just mesmerizing. You know, sometimes you just find somebody or you read a book and it just grabs you and you read the whole thing, like cover to cover. And lo and behold, a couple of months later, he happened to be in Australia doing a big seminar. So I went to his seminar with one of my friends that I reconnected with. There's a lot of synchronicities, and I just had this amazing, like I was in a big audience in a big kind of theater. But even just the little demonstration he had, I had such a deep and moving experience that it just captured me. And it really it gave me that confirmation. I don't think you can necessarily say evidence, but it gave me that confirmation that for me, past lives were real. And it just blew my mind that my subconscious held on to so much information. This is like going back like past lives. So what does it have about, just my since I've been born in this life? And the more then I started to look into it, and I then, saw a couple of other past life regressionists, I just became really fascinated by how much depth is below the surface that we are not aware of. For people that don't know, basically our conscious mind, what we're operating on, is only about 10%. It's like an iceberg, right? So you've got the tip of the iceberg as your conscious mind. There's all this stuff below the surface. And I just became really fascinated with that, kind of almost like, the mystery. And then I didn't necessarily think about training in it professionally. It was just kind of something that, really appealed to me, something I was curious about, that I dipped into every now and then. And then I was here in Phuket. I think it was 2014 or 2015, and the meditation teacher wasn't there, and they asked me to like substitute a class. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done a meditation class. And so what I decided to do was an evening class, and I was like, I know what I'm going to do for people. I'm going to read them a bedtime story. And I've been doing something before called bibliotherapy, which is like when you read a book and you identify with the character and it helps you through a process. And I was like, I'm just going to read them an inspirational bedtime story. They're all here at this wellness resort to make some changes. So I started reading some paragraphs from The Alchemist. And the feedback after I love it. One of my favorite books. Obviously, I didn't finish the whole book. I just kind of, they wanted more. But the feedback that I got wasn't so much about the content of the story, but about my voice. And when I was reading it, like when I'm doing hypnotherapy, I have a slightly different, I guess, like essence or quality to my voice. Like you have a telephone voice as well, which is nice and polite. And, I think we have such incredible potential to kind of like shift and change our voice. And it blew me away because for a long, long time, I'd hated my voice. I'm a manifestor, right?
You have a stunning voice. So what are you talking about? But anyways.
Again, this was due to conditioning, right? When I was reading aloud in school, I think I was talking a lot. I got told to stop talking. And so I did stop talking when I was young. I had to have speech therapy.
Yeah, same. What age did you start talking? Like as a child?
I can't remember when I started talking, like probably around 18 months or something like that. I don't think there was a delay with that.
I had a crazy delay. I don't think I spoke till like almost close to age 4.
Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't have girls are seen, not heard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I don't think I had a delay in speaking initially, but then it was just like most of my conditioning that I am aware of is really come from school, not so much from my parents. But yeah, I sort of like I stopped speaking at school because I was told to stop speaking, and again I was trying to be a good girl, and I had to have speech therapy. And then after that, I hated when I was like, I don't know about, if this was kind of routine like around the world, but in the UK in school, you all had your book and you had to go around the class and everybody had to read a couple of sentences from the book, and I just hated it.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even just English class. They made you do it for French, for Spanish, or everyone took a turn. It's just a way to get everyone to participate. Ugh.
And I really didn't like it. And then I would like cringe every time I heard my voice on like a answering machine, like a phone recording or something. I hated public speaking. I hated like anything where I had to get up and do a presentation. And so even, a couple of decades later, and I was getting this feedback about my voice, it was really strange to me. Even now, when you've just said that to me, I still kind of go,
you still feel the tinge, right? Like,
a little bit, like from an inner child perspective, I don't, and it kind of like I can accept it, but there's still like this little part inside that's like, really, why would you say that? But I've had such consistent feedback about my voice over the last, 8 years that I do, now appreciate that. But it took a long time for me to kind of really understand that. I'm like, why are people saying this? Like, what are they hearing that I'm not hearing? And so it kind of started there, in the sense that, like, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, all these people are saying this thing about my voice. Maybe I have a certain quality to my voice. And then I think somebody maybe suggested, like, maybe I do hypnotherapy. And so I actually initially trained in quantum healing hypnotherapy, which is like a really intense past life regression.
Mm-hmm.
That was brilliant. However, it takes about 4 hours per session. And given that my energy is...
I was going to say, most people don't have that attention span.
Yeah.
Or
And so
just fall asleep.
And so I love it, but I was just kind of like, I don't think that I have the sustainable energy
Your
to
voice
kind of
just
do
like
that.
turns into like sand at that point. No, like that's a lot of talking.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can split them into 2-hour sessions, but even that just is quite a lot. And so then I just trained, after I trained in quantum healing hypnotherapy, I just trained in regular hypnotherapy.
Okay, so that answered the aha moment for me. So what I'd like to know, that this is fun, is, so for not everybody is kind of aware of, hypnotherapy. Um, I mean, they are aware, but they don't understand it, is what I'm trying to say, right? Because there's many misconceptions floating around. So why don't you give us a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a concise explanation for how it works. Because a lot of people are like, I don't want you like go into my subconscious mind and like mess around. So debunk those for us.
So I think a lot of people, one of the most common misconceptions is that it's mind control, right? Because a lot of people associate hypnotherapy with maybe what they've seen on TV, like stage hypnosis, where people get up on stage and then they're made to do silly things. And so, of course, people are like, that feels vulnerable. People are afraid of that. So I always say, when I'm telling them, look, I'm not going to turn you into a chicken. I'm not going to do anything you don't want to do. You're not going to tell me anything that you don't want to tell me. And so, one of the most important things is that you've got to remember, this is hypnotherapy. It's not, so it's using hypnosis, it's using the principle of hypnosis, but it's for therapeutic purposes. So it is a kind of therapy, right? So it's fully like participatory, like fully, like people go into their fully understanding what they're going to do. They feel safe. I explain everything. So it's not like when you go up on stage, you're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, and people are laughing at you and stuff like that, right? It's just one-on-one. It's me and the client. So it's really, really important to have like a good rapport and a sense of trust, when you're doing any kind of therapy, but particularly hypnotherapy. I combine it with human design. So I use human design as a map. Whether the client knows about their human design or not doesn't matter, to see where like their core wounds, their triggers, their shadows are, and then like, in conversation with them, kind of what their repeating patterns and limiting beliefs are. And, based on our human design, there are some things that are going to show up based on your type, based on your profile. And then I use hypnotherapy as the tool to work on whatever it is, to reframe a limiting belief into like an empowering belief, empowering pattern. So yeah, I think the main misconception is that it's mind control and that something is going to happen to them, and that, yeah, I'm going to go in and like change something. And like, I would, I work with full ethics, full integrity. I'm never going to do anything that somebody doesn't want to do. If somebody says to me they don't want to go to a certain place, maybe they've told me about a particular childhood wound or trauma, I will not go there without their permission. So it's I do create a very safe container. If anyone is working with anyone, any kind of therapist, you need to have that.
So, I guess to build on that, right, is, so like, what is the process, right? It's just like, do you have the little clock that says you are getting sleepy? Like, walk us through the different states that your mind might be going through as you're going under. I mean, I know these things, but again, for our viewers, we're like, tell us.
I think that's another thing as well, that people think they're going to go under, and sometimes people are a bit resistant to hypnotherapy, again, because maybe they don't fully understand it. So it's basically a relaxed but focused state of awareness. People are going to experience that differently. Some people are more susceptible to hypnosis than others. If I have somebody, like I do presentations and classes here, if I have somebody that goes, you're not going to be able to hypnotize me, I can straight away see by their body language. I was like, well, I'm not going to try, because I have nothing to prove. I'm not trying to prove that I can hypnotize you. But I often do a test when I'm doing like a class here, And it's to do with people, like I get them to kind of stand up and close their eyes and imagine that they're holding a balloon in one hand and a book in the other. And I tell
Oh,
them
I
the book is
love
getting
that
heavier and the balloon
experiment.
is getting lighter. And they kind of, the further then away people's arms are, like this is the balloon and this is the book, then the more susceptible they are to hypnosis. If people's hands haven't really moved, then they're just going to be a little bit more resistant. Everybody can be hypnotized, but it primarily depends as well on your willingness to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to try to do hypnotherapy on someone that doesn't want to do it, or that is like, trying to kind of, again, because of this misconception, they think I can control their mind or something. Like I said, it's a two-way process. So yeah.
Perfect.
But that's
so
sorry, I was going to say the stages that you go through.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. So you're conscious right now.
Yeah, you're conscious. I mean, so
Mhm.
you would close your eyes, you have to be, and I'm going to do a demonstration, a little bit later, but you have to be in a relaxed, safe, comfortable place, right? So you can just kind of allow yourself to go into that deep state of relaxation. You have your eyes closed. I'll normally walk you through something to really relax your body, to kind of just get you into the zone. It involves some visuals or some feelings and things like that. And then it's like a very deep state of meditation, like relaxed meditation. It's not really, it's nothing kind of scarier or more strange than that. So anyone that's done any kind of meditation, any kind of relaxation, maybe you've even had a massage and you've had your eyes closed and you've been lying there and feel really relaxed. It's like that. But, I'm talking to you the whole time. So there's this relaxed but focused state of awareness where your subconscious mind becomes open, right? Because you're closing your eyes, you're kind of going into your body. Most of us are so caught up in our mind and not connected to our body. And this is a problem on many levels that, it allows you to drop into your body, it allows you to drop into your subconscious. And then, it's about reprogramming the patterns and the beliefs for more empowering ones. So it's people wake up going, oh, that feels lovely. And also often people kind of go, that wasn't an hour, that was 10 minutes. I'm like, no, that was an hour. So you lose this kind of like sense of time as well. It's a lovely experience.
Right. So because I am an information junkie. So let everyone know, what are the different, I guess, states of awakeness versus like being in a hypnotic state. Like, people might know like, oh, there's like alpha and like beta. Like what is it? And what do they mean?
So you've got like alpha and beta and then theta and gamma. Normally you're in, like, when you're kind of awake and you're concentrating on something, you're really focused, you're in alpha state. Okay, you're really like aware and you're looking at something and you're focused. And then you can drop into beta, which is like a little bit more relaxed. You're still aware of things that are going on. And then when you drop into theta state, that's ideally where somebody wants to be for hypnosis. Okay, when you're dropped into that really relaxed state. And that's, again, often what you're in terms of like meditation, or maybe if you're doing breath work or sound healing or something like that. So you're still awake, you're not asleep. Even if someone does fall asleep during hypnosis, it still works. Like a lot of people ask me that as a question. But you're not up here in your conscious mind. Your brain isn't whizzing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You drop down into this deep relaxation.
It sounds lovely. It probably like whenever I've done it, it feels like when I come out of it, like I had like the most amazing, refreshing nap. It's like, oh, I feel like a new person. This is so nice.
Yeah. And, depending on what somebody's working on, yes, sometimes it can be emotional. Sometimes it can be just really uplifting. Again, it just really depends on the intention of the session and what we're working on.
Amazing. So the next thing that I want to know is, so how has hypnosis actually changed your own beliefs and mindsets, or even, how you conduct yourself on a daily basis?
So I also, prior to certifying in hypnotherapy, I also did neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. And so quite often these are used in combination as well. A lot of hypnotherapists are trained in NLP too. So really becoming aware of just how much we're conditioned. Every person, you're basically walking around as an adult as a set of repeating patterns based on your childhood beliefs and habits. Like I said, right, imagine that there's an iceberg and your mind's an iceberg, and the tip of the iceberg, your conscious mind, is just 5 to 10%. And that's what you're operating on most of the time. But everything that's below the surface, and that's all formed in your early childhood years, your beliefs, your habits, your behaviors, your core ones anyway. And so you're not aware of what's going on. And most people are just reacting based on what's kind of going on underneath. And like I said, there's, unless you kind of consciously, intentionally do some things to connect in with your body, you're just running on your mind all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're just a set of repeating patterns. And so knowing that, I guess knowing it professionally,
Mm-hmm.
it allows me to take a step back and to see people differently. And when I notice really reactive behavior, when people are very triggered, somebody cuts you off in traffic, somebody snaps at you, whatever it might be, most of the time, I'm not perfect, most of the time I can take a step back and kind of go, well, I wonder what happened for them, or I wonder what's gone on, or I wonder if they even know that they have that pattern. So it's allowed me to have more compassion because I have that understanding that most people are not really in the sense of control that they think they are. They're just reactionary. So it allowed me to have a deeper sense of compassion for people. It allowed me to stop taking things personally. Again, if somebody does react towards me, of course, sometimes I will take that on, but a lot of the time I just kind of go, oh, I wonder what's going on for them, or I wonder what happened in their childhood. So I have that kind of questioning. So don't go and ask them that if it's just some random stranger in the supermarket. But,
that would make for a great show, right? Sophie, the hypnotherapist, going and taking on people's conditioning.
Could do that, right? I remember it was a couple of years ago, someone bumped into me in the supermarket here, and he was just kind of like he bumped into me and he was like, oh, and I don't even think I was in the way. And it was just kind of really rude. And I was about to react and I caught myself. It's slowed down my process of, thinking and reacting. I caught myself and I just said to him, are you okay? And he just and went off. But rather than me going, hey, why are you bumping into me? And, reacting back and just having this futile conflict, I just let it go. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that's huge. That's something that's huge then in parenting, in relationships. So it really has just, I'd say, changed everything in my life. Yeah.
Oh, that's
just really
amazing.
Yeah.
So that was your experience. So what I would like to know is what happened after you started working with some of your clients that it was like, oh yes, this works. You're one of your loveliest moments of I think we had a breakthrough.
There's loads, but the ones that stick with me, and so one of the reasons I love hypnotherapy is because it's really effective. It can be really easy. You can have the transformation, and especially when I add human design to the mix, you can have this transformation in an hour's session that sometimes through something traditional like talk therapy might take months or even years, because you're going into the root, you're going into the subconscious. So I had one client, this is kind of a funny one. I had one client here. So I work at a lot of wellness resorts here. So people come here to work on their health, their well-being, maybe they've gone through something. And there was a lady here that was told by one of the nutritionists, you really need to eat more protein, you need to have fish. Now she had this deathly fear, phobia of fish. She couldn't even be in the same room as someone eating it, cooking it, nothing, just completely repulsed by it. But she was like, okay, I want to give this a go. I want to try eating fish. So she booked in to do hypnotherapy with me. And she knew, she had a conscious awareness that when she was small, maybe 3 or 4, she'd had an experience where a fish had jumped out of a pond. So she did know that. So we went straight into there and worked with that. And when I was regressing her back to that age, it appeared to her, because of how small she was, like this giant shark coming out. Oh. So I just reframed that. I reframed that for her, taking her back to that. Now, imagine that it's just a small fish and it's not going to do you any harm and everything. Did that one session, 1 hour. She was eating fish that evening. So not only was it in the same room, she was eating it.
Wow. That's an amazing turnaround time.
Right. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It depends how, deeply something is rooted. I had another one where I had a client who was in her 40s, and she said she'd been having panic attacks for five years or so since she was in her mid-30s. And again, I got back to the root of that, and I was like, I knew already. I'm like, it's not been since your 30s. There's something else going on, but it was triggered by something. We ended up going back to when she was about 7 years old, and she had this very vivid experience where she woke up and she couldn't see or find either of her parents, and she panicked. And that's where it went back to. And again, we reframed that. I said, your parents coming in, you've woken up in the middle of the night, your parents come in, they hug you, they cuddle you, everything's fine, and we go back to sleep. And then she was fine, no more panic attacks. And again, that's one session.
Yeah, it's just like laser focus of like just finding the thing. It's like, boop, let's take it out. It's not serving